Hello, I'm Tyler, this is the Imaginary Axis, and if you're a criminal living in Seattle, Washington, there's a chance you've met this guy. Phoenix Jones, a real-life superhero who patrols his home city on the lookout for crime and evildoers. He's a skilled MMA fighter who comes equipped with a stun baton, a bulletproof vest, a bulletproof shield, pepper spray, and handcuffs, which he's used to make dozens of real arrests over the years. And he's not alone. There are plenty of masked vigilantes with watchful eyes, supersuits, and a direct line to the police, and yes, many of them have stopped real and serious crimes. But I'd just like to go on record saying no one here at the Imaginary Axis actually recommends you get involved in this type of vigilante work. Sure, superheroics might look fun in the comic books or on TV, but in our world there's a lot of red tape that can make sure you end up fighting both sides of the law if you ever decide to wage a personal war on crime. Yeah, disappointing. I know. It's not technically illegal to be a superhero, but if you're familiar with films like Captain America Civil War, you probably realize that something doesn't necessarily have to be illegal before it's bogged down with so many policies and regulations that it's pretty much pointless anyway. In the film, the Avengers' recent vigilante work is put under closer surveillance by the United Nations through something called the Sokovia Accords. A document more or less making any heroics the Avengers participate in illegal unless it is first approved by an entire panel of United Nations officials. Now I know this isn't exactly how things happen in the comics, but it does give some level of relatability to the Avengers. Almost as if we can reach out to them and say, yeah, I feel you buddy, it's hard to be a superhero in this world without the entire government coming down on you too. But neither of our situations are hopeless. In fact, there are certain laws in place that can help you become a superhero if you have to. Like citizen's arrest. In case you were wondering how defenders of justice like Phoenix Jones manage to put bad guys behind bars, most states and countries will allow a private person to arrest another under specific circumstances. No badge required. If you saw someone committing a crime, or a crime just occurred and you have a good reason to suspect someone, bam, you can arrest them. The situation is actually pretty simple. If you want to perform a citizen's arrest, all you have to do is tell the person you're arresting that you're arresting them, do what you can to detain them in the area, and call the police to have them take things from there. Every iteration of this law suggests you avoid using force if possible, but everyone also understands that sometimes fighting is just inevitable. The reason you don't hear about people placing citizen's arrests all that often is because it's dangerous. And not just because criminals are a superstitious and cowardly lot. No, placing citizens' arrests can be really touchy. You have to really know what you're doing, otherwise you could end up getting arrested yourself. We have to have restrictions on things like this to stop paranoia from getting the better of us. If anyone could just arrest you because you looked kind of suspicious, then your entire job, family, reputation, and who knows what else could be thrown into jeopardy just because you came across someone who was a little out there. There are a lot of laws that will allow you to play vigilante in certain circumstances, but like that pesky Sokovia Accords, they all come with a risk. For example, if you saw someone vandalizing public property, chase them down and handcuff them, you would be in big trouble in most states, unless the vandal had caused over $500 in property damage. Because anything below that amount is usually considered a misdemeanor, not a felony. And citizens are not allowed to arrest other citizens for misdemeanors. It might be legal to be a superhero, but you don't have the same level of legal protection that a police officer does. You probably don't have the same level of training or equipment, or the same knowledge of the law. So eventually you have to stop asking, is it legal to be a superhero, and start asking, do I want to be one? You see, if someone is acting violent, or maybe even deadly, how do you stop them? Sure, you have a right to self-defense, but that varies from place to place. Depending on where you live, you might have a duty to retreat from the situation and only fight back if absolutely necessary. You might have to call upon castle doctrine, which allows you to use deadly force on anyone illegally entering your home. Or you might even be allowed to stand your ground and use lethal force without any restrictions. In the US, our general rule is a person is privileged to use such force as reasonably appears necessary to defend him or herself against an apparent threat of unlawful, immediate violence from another. But that's the catch, isn't it? How much force is necessary, and how am I supposed to know? If I'm acting as a superhero, chances are I'm going to end up in court. And my defense is going to have to be something like, yes, I knocked his teeth out. but, or I admit to killing him, but, and is that ever a situation I really won't? Sometimes it seems like it just might be safer to avoid street crime altogether. Maybe stick to something else, like, fighting aliens. That's right, superheroes don't just deal with gangsters and mad scientists, do they? Sometimes they'll be called to take down interdimensional demons, super intelligent animals, gods, mutants, and a number of things that we just don't usually consider human. So, what do we do with things we don't consider human? Can you incarcerate something that isn't human? Can you prosecute something that isn't human? Well, it depends on the type of non-human it is. Gorillas have rights. Very specific animal rights that vary from place to place. But Kryptonians do not. If you're strong enough to do it, there's nothing in the United States Constitution that can stop you from killing Zod. But if you're Superman, is there anything in the Constitution that can stop you from killing whoever you want? In 2007, Senator Ernie Chambers of Nebraska filed a lawsuit against God. Yes, the God, as represented in the Bible, and accused him of causing calamitous catastrophes resulting in the widespread death, destruction, and terrorization of millions upon millions of Earth's inhabitants, including innocent babes, infants, children, the aged and infirm, without mercy or distinction. Quite a serious claim. But the case was dismissed because God could not be properly notified by the court date, having no listed address. What interests me is the exact way the judge dismissed the case. He said, and I quote, "Given that this court finds that there can never be service effectuated on the named defendant, this action will be dismissed with prejudice." Which in layman's terms means we can't get him to show up, so we can't prosecute him. Well, what does that say about superheroes? Let's say the Flash didn't follow proper protocol when catching some bank robbers. Or what if Superman destroyed some buildings during last week's big battle? So, who's gonna stop them? How do we give court notice to an intergalactic police agent? How do we convince a god to arrive for trial on a certain date? And if any of these people say no, what are we supposed to do about it? The law is only as good as our ability to enforce it. If all the police officers disappeared overnight, it really wouldn't matter what was or wasn't legal anymore. And in these superpowered universes, sometimes that might as well be the case. Throughout this video, we've covered a few technicalities in the legal system. We've talked about how sometimes you can take the law into your own hands, but it comes with risk. And that risk is so great that sometimes you just can't help but sigh. Like with the Sokovia Accords, sometimes it looks like all this letter of the law and due process is just slowing down the real justice. And if the rules were a little more laxed, we could have real superheroes who would be willing to stand up for what they believe in. But isn't that a little weird? Police officers have very specific rules, and have to answer for every action they take. Their entire job is flooded with strict regulations, but there are still stories all the time about the police being out of control somewhere. Meanwhile, in the Avengers, an unelected group of 6 people decided to unleash an unstoppable rage monster on downtown New York without any guarantee it would listen to them, because they felt the ends would justify the means. The only reason we like them is because they turned out to be right. Presumably. You see, the catch is, their world is not our world, and what works for them won't always work for us. We don't want the Sokovia Accords to be passed because we know the Avengers will make the right decision on their own. They're the Avengers, the good guys, they have to. But I'd personally be a little suspicious if I ever heard that argument in real life. Something like, wow, I really wish superheroes existed. Wouldn't it be cool to live in a world with people so incredibly powerful they could protect us and make important decisions that affect everybody without consulting anyone? Instead, we're living in a boring world controlled by mundane, restrictive laws and politicians that we all voted for. Maybe the setup we have here isn't that bad. In this world, it's legal to be a superhero. To stand up for truth, justice, and whatever it is you believe in. But unless you have superhuman strength or can fly at super speeds, you will be held accountable for your actions. And I guess if you do have either of those things, the best we can hope for is we'll find someone else with one of those things and convince them to hold you accountable. The truth is, there's only one possible outcome for a world like that. Civil War. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video on superheroes and the legal system. Yeah, I know, weird topic. But if you enjoyed it, then please slap the like button, or maybe even the subscribe button. Those of you who are loyal viewers might remember in the last video I asked when we should start releasing videos. and the consensus seems to be Thursday. So, yeah, that's our new schedule now. We're going to start releasing videos every other Thursday. That is, one Thursday every 2 weeks, starting not this week, but the next week. But hey, supporting the channel definitely can't hurt. So if you're really interested in helping the imaginary axis become a more regular thing, then please share this video with your friends. Try visiting our Facebook and Twitter pages, and don't forget to stay tuned for next time. Until then.